The wrestling world just exploded with one of the most shocking verbal attacks in recent memory as Paul Heyman delivered a blistering message to Jon Moxley that has sent shockwaves through every corner of the industry. The wise man pulled no punches when he made it crystal clear that the former WWE champion turned AEW star would find no home in the company he once called his own. If you're a wrestling fan who loves drama, controversy, and the kind of raw, unfiltered truth that makes this business so addictive, then you need to smash that subscribe button right now, because what we're about to break down is absolutely insane. Paul Heyman has never been one to mince words, and his latest comments about Jon Moxley prove that age has not softened the legendary advocate one bit. Speaking in a recent interview that has now gone viral across social media platforms, Heyman addressed the elephant in the room that many fans have been whispering about for months. With Moxley's current trajectory in AEW and the constant speculation about potential returns to WWE, the question was bound to come up eventually. What nobody expected was the absolute fire that Heyman would unleash when given the opportunity to address it directly. The wise man started by acknowledging Moxley's undeniable talent and the impact he made during his time as Dean Ambrose in WWE. Heyman has always been known for his ability to weave narratives that blur the lines between reality and performance, and this situation was no different. He spoke about the early days of The Shield when three hungry young competitors took the wrestling world by storm and changed the landscape of WWE forever. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose became household names, and their brotherhood seemed unbreakable at the time. But Heyman was quick to point out that while two of those men evolved and reached heights previously thought impossible, one chose a different path entirely. This is where Heyman's tone shifted from nostalgic reflection to cold hard reality. He talked about how Moxley made his choice when he walked away from WWE in 2019. That decision, Heyman emphasized, was not just about leaving a company or seeking creative freedom. It was a rejection of everything WWE represents. It was turning your back on the biggest stage in professional wrestling. It was choosing to be a big fish in a smaller pond rather than continuing to fight and evolve on the grandest platform the industry has ever known. Heyman's words cut deep as he described how Moxley publicly criticized WWE, repeatedly trashed the creative process, and made it clear that he wanted nothing to do with the empire that Vince McMahon built and that now thrives under new leadership. But Heyman wasn't finished. He brought up how Moxley has positioned himself as the anti-WWE wrestler, the guy who escaped the machine, the rebel who found true artistic expression outside the corporate structure. Heyman called this narrative exactly what it is, which is a convenient story that sounds great in interviews but ignores the fundamental truth. WWE made Dean Ambrose a star. WWE gave him a platform to showcase his talents to millions of people around the world. WWE put championships around his waist and gave him main event opportunities that wrestlers in other promotions can only dream about. And when things didn't go exactly the way he wanted, instead of adapting and fighting through it like true champions do, Moxley packed his bags and left. The wise man then addressed the rumors and speculation that have been floating around about a potential return. Fans on social media have been fantasy booking dream matches and talking about what it would mean for the Shield to reunite one final time. Some have even suggested that with Triple H now running creative, things would be different and Moxley might find the environment more to his liking. Heyman absolutely destroyed this fantasy with the kind of verbal precision that has made him the greatest advocate in wrestling history. He made it abundantly clear that WWE has moved on. The company is in a new era. Business is booming. Creative is firing on all cylinders. And there is absolutely no need or desire to bring back someone who publicly burned bridges on his way out the door. Heyman painted a vivid picture of the current WWE landscape. Roman Reigns has cemented his legacy as the greatest champion of this generation. Seth Rollins continues to reinvent himself and deliver consistently at the highest level. The company has cultivated new stars who are hungry, loyal, and represent the future of the business. Why would WWE need to go backwards and bring in someone who represents the past, especially someone who has spent years telling anyone who would listen how much better things are elsewhere? The message was clear and brutal. Jon Moxley made his bed and now he has to lie in it. But Heyman wasn't content with just closing the door on a potential return. He went further by questioning Moxley's entire post-WWE narrative. He pointed out that for all the talk about creative freedom and doing things differently, Moxley has essentially been doing the same hardcore violent style that he wanted to do in WWE but couldn't because of the company's content standards and sponsor relationships. Heyman suggested that what Moxley calls artistic expression, WWE calls limited range. The greatest performers in wrestling history have been able to adapt to any situation, tell any story, and connect with audiences regardless of whether they're using light tubes and barbed wire or pure psychology and storytelling. Heyman implied that Moxley's reliance on hardcore elements reveals a performer who may not have the depth and versatility required to truly thrive in WWE's current environment. The wise man also addressed the business side of things in a way that only he can. He talked about value and what it means to be a draw in this industry. WWE is setting records in attendance, revenue, and viewership. The company's partnership with Netflix is about to change the entire landscape of how wrestling content is consumed. Major celebrities and mainstream attention are flooding back to WWE in ways not seen in years. Meanwhile, Heyman subtly pointed out that while AEW has its dedicated fan base, the numbers tell a very different story about which company is truly thriving. He questioned what exactly Moxley would bring to the table that WWE doesn't already have, and the answer he provided was nothing significant enough to justify rolling out the red carpet for someone who showed such disrespect on his way out. Heyman then brought up loyalty, which is a concept that clearly means a great deal to him personally. He spoke about the wrestlers currently on the WWE roster who have stayed through thick and thin, the ones who believed in the process even when things were difficult, the performers who understood that being part of WWE means being part of something bigger than yourself. These are the people who deserve opportunities and pushes. These are the talents who should be rewarded for their loyalty and dedication. Bringing back someone like Moxley, who publicly criticized the company, would send a terrible message to the locker room. It would suggest that burning bridges doesn't have consequences and that you can say whatever you want about WWE only to come crawling back when you realize the grass isn't actually greener on the other side. The intensity of Heyman's message continued to build as he addressed what he sees as Moxley's hypocrisy. He reminded everyone that Moxley has repeatedly stated how happy he is in AEW, how he's doing the best work of his career, how he finally has the creative control he always wanted. If all of that is true, then why would he even consider returning to WWE? Heyman suggested that perhaps the reality doesn't match the public statements. Maybe the freedom Moxley thought he wanted turned out to be less fulfilling than he imagined. Maybe being the top guy in a smaller promotion doesn't quite match the feeling of performing in front of 70,000 people at WrestleMania. Whatever the reason, Heyman made it clear that WWE is not interested in being anyone's backup plan. Heyman also took shots at the idea that WWE needs Moxley for any kind of ratings boost or credibility. He pointed out that the company just had one of the most successful WrestleMania events in history. SummerSlam broke attendance records. The product is white hot with or without Jon Moxley. In fact, Heyman suggested that Moxley needs WWE far more than WWE needs him. The opportunity to return to the biggest stage in wrestling to prove that he can still hang with the best in the world on the grandest platform might be something Moxley secretly desires, but it's not something WWE is prepared to offer given the circumstances of his departure. The wise man didn't stop there though. He brought up the Bloodline storyline and how it has captivated audiences for years now. He talked about the careful planning, the long-term storytelling, and the respect for the audience's intelligence that goes into crafting such a narrative. Then he contrasted that with what he characterized as Moxley's approach, which he described as simply showing up bleeding and pretending that violence equals depth. Heyman has never been shy about his belief that the best wrestling tells stories and creates emotional investment beyond just physicality. His comments made it clear that he views Moxley's current style as beneath what WWE represents at its best. Heyman then addressed the fans directly, which is always when his promos become even more powerful. He acknowledged that many fans loved Dean Ambrose and have fond memories of his time in WWE, but he challenged those fans to think critically about what they're actually asking for when they chant for his return or book fantasy scenarios on social media. Are they asking for the company to compromise its standards and principles to bring back someone who disrespected it? Are they suggesting that WWE should ignore years of negative comments and bridge burning because nostalgia feels good? Heyman suggested that true fans of WWE would want the company to stand firm and maintain its dignity rather than chase after someone who clearly doesn't value what WWE represents. The legendary advocate also made a point about timing and relevance. He noted that the wrestling business is about what you're doing right now, not what you did 5 years ago. Moxley's best work in WWE is in the past. The industry has moved forward. New stars have emerged. The audience has evolved. Whatever value Moxley might have had as a returning star has diminished with each passing year he spends away from WWE. By the time he might actually want to come back, assuming that day ever comes, he may find that the audience has moved on completely and his return would be met with indifference rather than excitement. Heyman wrapped up his comments with one final devastating point. He said that WWE is not in the business of rehabilitation projects or second chances for people who don't appreciate what they had until it's gone. The company is focused on the future, on building new stars and creating the next generation of wrestling legends. Jon Moxley had his opportunity. He made his choice. And that choice has consequences. The door isn't just closed, according to Heyman. It's locked, welded shut, and there's no key. Moxley can continue doing whatever he wants in AEW or anywhere else, but WWE has moved on completely and has absolutely no interest in revisiting the past. The wrestling world is still reacting to these explosive comments from Paul Heyman. Social media has been on fire with fans debating whether Heyman went too far or if he was simply speaking truth that needed to be said. Moxley has not yet responded publicly to these comments, though knowing his personality it's unlikely he'll let them go unanswered. The situation has created one of those rare moments where the lines between reality and storyline are so blurred that nobody knows exactly what to believe, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes wrestling so compelling. What's clear is that Paul Heyman just drew a line in the sand that cannot be uncrossed. Whether this is legitimate heat, genuine feelings about Moxley's departure, or the beginning of some elaborate long-term storyline that nobody sees coming yet remains to be seen. What we do know is that the prospect of Jon Moxley ever returning to WWE seems more unlikely now than ever before. Heyman's words carried the weight of finality, and coming from someone with his standing and influence in the company, they cannot be dismissed as just another work-shoot promo. The fallout from this situation will likely continue to develop in the coming weeks and months. Will Moxley fire back with his own comments? Will this create even more animosity between WWE and AEW as companies? Will fans continue to push for a Shield reunion that now seems completely impossible? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. Paul Heyman just reminded everyone why he's called the Wise Man and why his words carry more weight than almost anyone else in professional wrestling. If you want to stay updated on all the latest developments in this explosive situation and every other major story in wrestling, then make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and join the conversation in the comments below, because this story is far from over.